Welcome to Data Center Essentials. This is an introduction to data centers and what they're about. We will learn the basics of the data center world and get you into the data center industry, which is one of the fastest growing sectors in the design and construction today. By the end, you'll know the lingo and more about data centers than about 90% of those in the industry. Now, I use the symbol of the Rubik's Cube, shown above, as an analogy to a data center. Most people can solve for one side, but a data center, like a Rubik's Cube, has many interlocking and interweaving parts. And in order to optimize a data center is much like solving a Rubik's Cube. So as you change one side, it affects the others. We're going to look at all those aspects, from the data center size, the type, the requirements, the spaces, all of the equipment that's in it, everything that goes with it, and more. We will look at data center tours, take virtual tours, and direct you to the best sources for some of those tours online, whether it's YouTube, which is, guess what, stored in a data center, or Twitch or others, as they show their data centers off to be more efficient and how those data centers are different from the financial aspect, from the Fortune 500 to a hyperscaler to a search engine to where your cloud lives. My name is John Peterson. I have about 2 decades of experience with data centers in all types and sizes, and that's what we'll also be talking about, as well as the equipment that goes in them and what's expected of a common data center today. We'll talk about all the terms and get you to understand and at least hear most of them so that you'll have exposure to the data center industry. And if you walk around your first or your 101st data center, you'll know what you're looking at and what those terms and acronyms mean, and what goes behind it and why some are more important than others. But beyond this, we'll also talk about the standards and other expectations of a common data center. To begin, we'll talk about what's a data center, what are all those blinking lights, who's involved in the data center industry, who should be touching the data center, walking through it, designing it, operating it, and how all that's done. We'll start from those basics before jumping into some of the deep stuff. We will look at the data center itself, what's in it, what's wrapped around it, and all those components and support systems that go into it. So all those little details, from the safety and security down to the power, the space, the cooling, how's that done, as well as what are all the support vendors that are behind it as well. A typical data center begins oftentimes with a brand new site, whether it's retrofitting an existing building or building on a greenfield like this. But you'll recognize them as just big warehouses, but very specific warehouses. So we'll talk about how that's done, where the key selection criteria are, and what a data center needs and where it's going to go, and why some of those spaces are chosen as well. Data center starts out with a plan, and once you figure out what kind of space and what your needs are, you can start to go through the steps that it takes to go and modernize a data center. Or if you already have a data center and you're retrofitting it, or you're modernizing it, or you're upgrading it, or you're using it, we can also talk about what those specific aspects are and some of the spaces that you might see and be involved with in the future. As I mentioned, we're talking about the different sizes, and that includes the small to the big. So you might think of a data center as being just a closet with a couple servers in it and network switches, but we'll talk about modular data centers, contained data centers that support, say, the fast driving cars or the 5G, all those different aspects as well. But we won't just talk about those closets and small data centers. We will talk about those mammoth data centers as well, with millions of square feet that are available to house many different people that might be within it. So how those are arranged and how those smaller ones are arranged can be different, especially if you're looking at those efficiencies. We'll discuss all of that as well. This course is Data Center Essentials. It's the G series for general. And again, we'll talk about all the types, the sizes, the equipment, the spaces, the lingo, all of that to get you upstarted and into the data center world so that you can join me there. And hopefully we'll see you there after joining this course.